We are quite early. Most of them who don't attend the home choir come around 7. So I'll wait for them a little while, but I can begin by reading a little bit of Savitri to you, because this book of the Double Twilight is extremely powerful. And I'm going to read from book 11 tonight, but I can begin just sharing with all of you this magnificent passage. Savitri is speaking to Death, and she says, "O Death, thou look'st on an unfinished world, assailed by thee, and of its road unsure, peopled by imperfect minds and ignorant lives, and sayest God is not, and all is vain. How shall the child already be the man? Because he is infant, shall he never grow? Because he is ignorant, shall he never learn? In a small, fragile seed, a great tree lurks. In a tiny gene, a thinking being is shut. A little element in a little sperm, it grows and is a conqueror and a sage. Then wilt thou spew out, Death, God's mystic truth, deny the occult, spiritual miracle? Still wilt thou say there is no spirit, no God? A mute, material nature wakes and sees. She has invented speech, unveiled a will. Something there waits beyond, towards which she strives. Something surrounds her, into which she grows, to uncover the spirit, to change back into God, to exceed herself is her transcendent task. In God concealed, the world began to be. Tardily, it travels towards manifest God. Our imperfection towards perfection toils. The body is the chrysalis of a soul. The infinite holds the finite in its arms. Time travels towards revealed eternity. A miracle structure of the eternal mage, matter its mystery hides from its own eyes. A scripture written out in cryptic signs, an occult document of the all-wonderful art. All here bears witness to his secret might. In all we feel his presence and his power. A blaze of his sovereign glory is the sun. A glory is the gold and glimmering moon. A glory is his dream of purple sky. A march of his greatness are the wheeling stars. His laughter of beauty breaks out in green trees. His moments of beauty triumph in a flower. The blue seas chant, the rivulet's wandering voice are murmurs falling from the Eternal's harp. This world is God, fulfilled in outwardness. His ways challenge our reason and our sense. By blind brute movements of an ignorant force, by means we slight as small, obscure, or base, a greatness founded upon little things. He has built a world in the unknowing void. His forms he has massed from infinitesimal dust. His marvels are built from insignificant things. If mind is crippled, life untaught and crude, if brutal masks are there and evil acts, they are incidents of his vast and varied plot. His great and dangerous dramas needed steps. He makes with these and all his passion play. A play, and yet no play, but the deep scheme of a transcendent wisdom, finding ways to meet her Lord in the shadow and the night. Above her is the vigil of the stars, watched by a solitary infinitude. She embodies in dumb matter the divine, in symbol minds and lives the absolute. A secret air of pure felicity, deep like a sapphire heaven, our spirits breathe. Our hearts and bodies feel its obscure call. Our senses grope for it and touch and lose. If this withdrew, the world would sink in the void. If this were not, nothing could move or live. A hidden bliss is at the root of things. A mute delight regards time's countless works. To house God's joy in things, space gave wide room. To house God's joy in self, our souls were born. This universe an old enchantment guards. Its objects are carved cups of world delight, whose charmed wine is some deep soul's rapture drink. The All-Wonderful has packed heaven with his dreams. He has made blank ancient space his marvel house. He spilled his spirit into matter's signs. His fires of grandeur burn in the great sun. He glides through heaven, shimmering in the moon. He is beauty, caroling in the fields of sound. He chants the stanzas of the odes of wind. He is silence, watching the stars at night. He wakes at dawn and calls from every bough, lies stunned in the stone, and dreams in flower and tree. Even in this labor and dolor of ignorance, on the hard, perilous ground of difficult earth, in spite of death and evil circumstances, a will to live persists, a joy to be. There is a joy in all that meets the sense, a joy in all experience of the soul, a joy in evil and a joy in good, a joy in virtue and a joy in sin. Indifferent to the threat of karmic law, joy dares to grow upon forbidden soil. Its sap runs through the plant and flowers of pain. It thrills with the drama of fate and tragic doom. It tears its food from sorrow and ecstasy. on danger and difficulty whets its strength. It wallows with the reptile and the worm, and lifts its head an equal of the stars. It shares the fairies' dance, dines with the gnome. It basks in the light and heat of many suns, the sun of beauty and the sun of power. Flatter and foster it with golden beams. It grows towards the Titan and the God. Sri Aurobindo tells us this world was made for bliss. All that we see now, all the disharmony, the ignorance, the intractability of human souls, the conditioning of the masses, all of this is an instant in the divine's power. Not even a second, and it will all go. If we establish Him within our heart, I've told you before, it is not the physical heart. It is in the center of the chest, and it is behind the heart. Sri Aurobindo says to one of his disciples in a birthday wish, a veil behind the heart, a lid over the mind, keep us from the divine. Love and devotion rend the veil, and in the quietude of the mind, the lid thins and vanishes. We do have to learn to still the mind, establishing the peace, and keeping out all these thoughts that keep going through us. We have to quiet them down. Emptying the mind will allow the divine presence to fill us. And it is such a moment for humility and gratitude that nothing approaches it. Those of you who have even had the slightest opening of the psychic being will understand this. I have about 5 minutes to 7 when I'll begin on Book 11. Because Book 11, you see, has almost 1,000 lines. I've mentioned that before to you. And it is Sri Aurobindo telling us what is going to be, how this world is going to enter into the divine consciousness, and the life divine is going to establish itself on this earth. We have only to read that, and we are so moved by the vision he has given us of the future. The book of the everlasting day has only one canto, and that canto is the eternal day, the soul's choice, and the supreme consummation. I'm going to move on a little bit so we can understand more of what is happening now and what can be done. Of course, Savitri has already brought Satyavan back from death. And the divine offers her 3 times the choice to enter into his infinity. Each time she refuses him. And I want to get to that section. And Sri Aurobindo quotes the Gita here in one passage that is so beautiful. The divine is now speaking to her. And we hear, "Then like an anthem from the heart's lucent cave, a voice soared up, whose magic sound could turn the poignant weeping of the earth to sobs of rapture, and her cry to spirit song." The divine speaks to her. "O human image of the deathless word, how hast thou seen beyond the topaz walls? The gleaming sisters of the divine gate summoned the genii of their wakeful sleep, and under revelation's arches forced the carved, thought-shrouded doors to swing upon, unlocked the avenues of spiritual sight, and taught the entries of a heavenly estate to thy rapt soul that bore the golden key." And then we're going to see that he offers her the first gift. But Savitri answered to the radiant god, "In vain thou tempt'st with solitary bliss 2 spirits saved out of a suffering world, my soul and his indissolubly linked in the one task for which our lives were born, to raise the world to God in deathless light, to bring God down to the world on earth. We came to change the earthly life to life divine." The voice cries to her again, "Choose, Spirit, thy supreme choice not given again. For now from my highest being looks at thee the nameless, formless peace, where all things rest. In a happy, vast, sublime cessation, no, an immense extinction in eternity, a point that disappears in the infinite, felicity of the extinguished flame, last sinking of a wave in a boundless sea, end of the trouble of thy wandering thoughts, close of the journeying of thy pilgrim soul. Accept, O music, weariness of thy notes, O stream, wide breaking of thy channel banks." The moments fell into eternity, but someone yearned within a bosom unknown, and silently the woman's heart replied, "Thy peace, O Lord, a boon within to keep, amid the roar and ruin of wild time, for the magnificent soul of man on earth. Thy calm, O Lord, that bears thy hands of joy, limitless like ocean, round the lonely isle." A second time the eternal cry arose. Wide open are the ineffable gates in front. My spirit leans down to break the knot of earth, amorous of oneness without thought or sign. to cast down wall and fence, to strip heaven bare, see with the large eye of infinity. And then this marvelous line, unweave the stars and into silence pass. Savitri now hears something. She heard a million creatures cry to her. Through the tremendous stillness of her thoughts, immeasurably the woman's nature spoke. Thy oneness, Lord, in many approaching hearts, my sweet infinity of thy numberless souls. Mightily retreating like a sea in ebb, a third time swelled the great admonishing call. I spread abroad the refuge of my wings. Out of its incommunicable deeps, my power looks forth of mightiest splendor, stilled into its majesty of sleep, withdrawn above the dreadful whirlings of the world. A sob of things was answered to the voice, and passionately the woman's heart replied, Thy energy, Lord, to seize on woman and man, to take all things and creatures in their grief and gather them into a mother's arms. The Lord speaks to her again, and she ends. Then all the woman yearningly replied, Thy embrace, which rends the living knot of pain, thy joy, O Lord, in which all creatures breathe, thy magic flowing waters of deep love, thy sweetness, give to me for earth and men. I promised you a few things last week of my experiences with Mother and some other experiences which I will share with you tonight, just a few. My wife, Mary Helen, and I are in a place that seems like a fine hotel, and we are going to our room. We needed a lion, so someone called and a company sent a lion. The lion came through the hall to the door. It was huge, but young. As the door opened out and not in, it was reluctant to go in. But I eased it open, and when he saw that he could go in, he went in. He sat down, and I called Mary Helen and said, "Oh, look at this." Because the lion was sweetly and happily licking my chest. And after he had licked me a number of times, he fell asleep immediately in my arms with his muzzle against my chest. Sri Aurobindo wrote, "The lion indicates force and courage and strength and power." This is a dream that I didn't really finish last week, and it was a very, very special dream. It happened in 2001, 20 years ago. Awaking from a dream in which I am trying to reach a destination at a beach town. I stop at a stand and have some bread and a cheese sandwich a man makes for me. Then his wife meets me and we talk. As I am leaving, she tells me her name, Barbara, but I feel it is Rajuta. Rajuta is the lady who used to take care of all the Americans who came to the ashram. Prior to this, I have been with Mother. This is the first time I can recall clearly meeting Mother in many years. She was all tenderness, and she held me, and I felt her love wash over me. I knew at that moment that I was truly with Mother. Then, while still holding me close, she put her hand on my head and uttered what seemed to me a magic incantation in an ancient tongue I had never heard before. When she finished, she said, "In the next 3 or 4 days, your head will fall off. Do not be concerned. Just let it happen." I knew immediately that it was not my physical head, and that Mother had made an opening. I wept the psychic tears as I had wept them when I saw her for the last time on July 29, 1972, when she spoke her last words to me. "Look at your card." And there was the name Narad. One word kept vibrating in my head for several minutes: Muladhara. I told Mother that I had saved some money for her, but she seemed to pretend that she either had not heard me clearly, I don't recall, but then she said that I should use it to take care of Shally and felt implied Mary Helen. In Mother's atmosphere, there were no longer any problems. All the difficulties of the nature that I confront here on the physical plane were dissipated. And although I seemed to sense others around, especially Mary Helen somewhere near, I was alone with Mother in deep and quiet joy. Mother's body seemed to be as we knew her. The feeling of her form had not changed, nor had her sweetness and intimacy. But her body was fluid and could be anywhere instantaneously. And I remember now very, very clearly that I saw her supramental body. And it was golden, yes. There were no organs in this body. She needed no food. And it was full of light, absolutely full of light, weightless, and so beautiful. Here I speak about her body again in another dream in January 2001. That's the same one, sorry. I share a poem I wrote to you around that time. Sons of light, weep not, O world, more tales of woe, for I have grief enough to bear. Bundled on my back I go, remembering the few and fair that I was privileged to know, who walk no more beside us here, accepting blessings they bestow, when in the silence they appear, or in our dreams to ebb and flow beyond the consciousness of time. I hear their voices, soft and low, like music or a perfect rhyme, exhorting us to find the way lifting us from night to day, through pain and loss. This truth I know. We are sons of light. Towards the light we go. All right, back to book 11 and its extraordinary passages. Now we're going to go through what Sri Aurobindo is telling us is our way to God and to realization. O Savitri, thou art my spirit's power, the revealing voice of my immortal word, the face of truth on the roads of time, pointing to the souls of men, the routes to God. While the dim light from the veiled spirit's peak falls upon matters stark in conscious sleep, as if a pale moonbeam on a dense glade, and mind in a half-light moves amid half-truths, and the human heart knows only human love, and life is a stumbling and imperfect force, and the body counts out its precarious days. You shall be born into man's dubious hours, in forms that hide the soul's divinity, and show through veils of the earth's doubting air my glory, breaking as through clouds a sun, or burning like a rare and inward fire, and with my nameless influence fill men's lives. Yet shall they look up as to peaks of God, and feel God like a circumambient air, and rest on God as on a motionless base. Yet shall there glow on mind like a horned moon, the Spirit's crescent splendor in pale skies, and light man's life upon his Godward road. But more there is concealed in God's beyond, that shall one day reveal its hidden face. Now mind is all, and its uncertain ray, now mind is all, and its uncertain ray. Mind is the leader of the body and life. Mind, the thought-driven chariot of the soul, carrying the luminous wanderer in the night to vistas of a far uncertain dawn, to the end of the spirit's fathomless desire, to its dream of absolute truth and utter bliss. I go a little further. There is a fire on the apex of the worlds. There is a house of the Eternal's light. There is an infinite truth and absolute power. The Spirit's mightiness shall cast off its mask. Its greatness shall be felt, shaping the world's course. It shall be seen in its own veilless beams, a star rising from the inconscious night, a sun climbing to supernature's peak. Now, this is important, so important for all of us, what he is going to say now. Abandoning the dubious middle way, a few shall glimpse the miraculous origin, and some shall feel in you the secret force, and they shall turn to meet a nameless tread, adventurers into a mightier day. Ascending out of the limiting breadths of mind, they shall discover the world's huge design and step into the truth, the right, the vast. You shall reveal to them the hidden eternities, the breadth of infinitudes not yet revealed, some rapture of the bliss that made the world, some rush of the force of God's omnipotence, some beam of the omniscient mystery. But when the hour of the divine draws near, the mighty mother shall take birth in time, and God be born into the human clay, in forms made ready by your human lives. Then shall the truth supreme be given to men. I'll continue a little further. Some shall be made the glory's receptacles, and vehicles of the Eternal's luminous power. These are the high forerunners, the heads of time, the great deliverers of earthbound mind, the high transfigurers of human clay, the firstborn of a new supernal race. The incarnate dual power shall open God's door. Eternal supermind touch earthly time. The Superman shall wake in mortal man and manifest the hidden demigod, or grow into the godlight and God force, revealing the secret deity in the cave. Then shall the earth be touched by the Supreme. His bright, unveiled transcendence shall illumine the mind and heart, and force the life and act to interpret his inexpressible mystery. Then shall the embodied being live as one, who is a thought, a will of the divine, a mask or robe of his divinity, an instrument and partner of his force, a point or line drawn in the infinite, a manifest of the imperishable. The supermind shall be his nature's fount. The Eternal's truth shall mold his thoughts and acts. The Eternal's truth shall be his light and guide. All then shall change. A magic order come, overtopping this mechanical universe. A mightier race shall inhabit the mortal's world. On nature's luminous tops, on the spirit's ground, the Superman shall reign as king of life, make earth almost the mate and peer of heaven, and lead towards God and truth man's ignorant heart, and lift towards Godhead his mortality. Then, in the process of evolving time, all shall be drawn into a single plan. A divine harmony shall be earth's law. Beauty and joy remold her way to live. Even the body shall remember God. Nature shall draw back from mortality, and spirit's fires shall guide the earth's blind force. Knowledge shall bring into the aspirant thought a high proximity to truth and God. The supermind shall claim the world for light, and thrill with love of God the enamored heart, and place light's crown on nature's lifted head, and found light's reign on her unshaking base. A greater truth than earth's shall roof in earth, and shed its sunlight on the roads of mind. A power infallible shall lead the thought. A seeing puissance govern life and act. In earthly hearts kindle the immortal's fire. A soul shall wake in the unconscious house. The mind shall be God vision's tabernacle, the body intuition's instrument, and life a channel for God's visible power. All earth shall be the Spirit's manifest home. Hidden no more by the body and the life, hidden no more by the mind's ignorance, an unerring hand shall shape, event, and act. And just a couple more lines, then we'll close. Even there shall come, as a high crown of all, the end of death, the death of ignorance. But first, high truth must set her feet on earth, and man aspire to the eternal's light, and all his members feel the Spirit's touch, and all his life obey an inner force. This too shall be, for a new life shall come, a body of the superconscious truth, a native field of supernature's mights. It shall make earth's nascent ground truth's colony. Make even the ignorance a transparent robe, through which shall shine the brilliant limbs of truth. And truth shall be a sun on nature's head, and truth shall be the guide of nature's steps, and truth shall gaze out of her nether deeps. When Superman is born as nature's king, his presence shall transfigure matter's world. He shall light up truth's fire in nature's night. He shall lay upon the earth truth's greater law. Man, too, shall turn towards the Spirit's call. This is the first time I have read anything to you, shared anything of Savitri at great length. And I ask Sri Aurobindo to allow it to enter into you, to become a part of your lives, to manifest this love, this peace, this joy, this eternal presence, this human unity, this sacredness of soul and soul. Namaste. 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 Any questions?
When did you see Mother's golden body? And how did you see, what were the circumstances?
It was in a vision. And I can't say exactly when. It was probably 1981. About 1981, I think. I don't remember for sure. Because she's always present within us now. And we have only to open a little bit and she is there. Just a little bit. And her love will touch you. And it will guide you. She will guide you. She will guide every step. Sri Aurobindo tells us this in Savitri. Mother uses simpler words, I would say. She says no words, acts. Powerful statement. We're always talking, we're always meeting, we're always arguing, we're always discussing, we're always at odds with each other. But if there are only acts of love acts of goodness, acts of wholeness. This is the least we can do. We are truly her children, and must be even as her. Our human self, we must become divine. These moments, as he says in Savitri, when the inner lamps are lit and the life's cherished guests are left outside, we see that our soul opens to something else and a greater power comes down. And he is so sweet when he says, even when we fail to look within or lie embedded in earthly consciousness, still have we parts that grow towards the light.